This guy made a printer that spits out messages that ignite and self-destruct. It's pretty cool, you know. It's an art piece. It's commentary about, you know, data breaches and hacks and, you know, and all this sensitive information getting out in the public all the time. Okay, this person said, I can ask this of any modern art that serves no purpose. Why? And here's the thing about you that makes you an idiot. The job of art isn't necessarily to do something practical. Its job is to say something meaningful, okay? It's not supposed to be a pulley or a lever. It's not it's supposed to be fun sometimes, but it's supposed to say something, and this has done its job very well. Now, I could just be projecting here, but when I see somebody do something that seems brilliantly simple, you know, I kick myself thinking, man, I should have thought of that. Maybe that's what people get upset about. Or maybe they're getting upset about the idea that someone seems to have done something lazily and without effort or skill, and yet is still getting praise and attention for it. I can definitely understand that feeling, and I felt that I felt that myself many times. But in this particular case, it certainly involves skill, you know, building something that combusts like this. I mean, that's pretty cool. But I also find I'm much less bothered by people I feel are undeserving of praise. And in this case, I think this guy is deserving of praise. The more I work toward making my own life better, you know, the harder I work to make my life awesome and to finish the projects that I want to finish, and to get them out there, the less it bothers me to see people getting attention for things that, really, just aren't my thing, you know. This is not really my thing, but hey, good for him. I mean, it's just a reality of our world that there are always going to be people who get attention and credit without having invested lots of time in mastering skills and mastering crafts. You know, there are people who are famous for being famous. You know, they're just, you know, whatever. You know, they're just another conversation piece. But I do believe that people in general can tell when someone is famous for being famous, and I do think that your own skills and your own value that you've worked hard to achieve will also be recognized if you work hard to achieve that. But it also depends on the crowd. You know, you're gonna live frustrated if you keep trying to convince, say, George W. Bush about how great the ballet is that you wrote, you know, and that he should come see it, you know, next time he's in New York. I'm not sure. I don't think he's a ballet guy. You know, you could argue that things like this that don't seem practical, you know, take away attention, you know, because everybody has a limited amount of attention and clutters up the world, creating this infobesity problem of too many meaningless things to fill our lives with. You know, you could make that argument, I guess, but it's just like, you got to curate your own culture, you know, your own personal culture. You know, that's your responsibility. If you don't like this, you don't like it. That's cool, but I don't think you understand what art is. Practical art? I suppose it could be such a thing. You know, I mean, hey, you could design a building that's pretty. I mean, but you don't think this person has any value? I mean, if nothing else, the person who made this entertained me for 30 seconds. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, how long would you be entertained if everybody on Earth entertained you for 30 seconds apiece, right? You'd have entertainment basically your whole life, I bet, right? Maybe for a while at least. So as far as I'm concerned, this guy served my life well. And this is pretty cool, you know, self-destructive, you know, I've heard people make similar arguments about going to the moon, you know, like this whole practical, it's like igniting someone's imagination is the most practical thing that you can ever do, because every practical thing that's ever made comes out of someone's imagination being sparked. Going to the moon helps us learn, and it sparks our imagination. It gives us tools, and it gives us all kinds of stuff, which in turn does help us in a very practical way every day. You got to understand that the purpose of art is not necessarily to be an immediate and clear thing. Now, for the artist it might be, but they might not want to share that, and it can be pretty vague. So you can just think of it as something that could be enjoyable or interesting, you know, and amusing. And it's something that can ignite imagination. That's enough. That's enough to make it worthwhile, you know. Piece of modern art that serves no purpose. You have to define this. Serves no purpose. I mean, do you mean it doesn't feed people in Africa? Because you're really limited in your understanding of purpose, of value. If you're saying that the only valuable things that can ever be done are in this group right here, does it help you breathe, eat, drink, have sex, sleep, be biologically homeostatic, or poop? Does it secure your body or your resources and your people you care about, no, then there's no value in it. It's a tough world philosophy. It's a very, again, I mean, safety, physiological, it's a very basic mentality. Just because it doesn't fucking grow corn doesn't mean it doesn't have a purpose that's valuable. And that's an important thing to say. So anyway, people like this annoy the shit out of me because they don't understand the purpose of art and the value of art and how it all is part of a cycle. It's like, I mean, seriously, this kind of thing could inspire someone to figure out how to make a 3D printer that makes food, you know, which is already something that people are working on. And that's very practical, isn't it? Someone could be inspired by this particular invention to make something that's very, very practical. You know, and even if they never did come up with something practical, it's still worthwhile. It's just igniting imagination and making people talk about ideas. Ideas are worth a crap. Of course, if you're still worried about your freaking basic needs, you might not gain an appreciation for the more subtle things. Creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, lack of prejudice and acceptance of facts, and self-esteem and confidence in achievement and respect of others and respect by others. You might not understand the value of those things if you've been struggling for so long with these more basic things. You're so focused on these really basic, obvious, overt, bludgeony things. I mean, you're missing out on 2/3 of life, you know, so that's why we try to make it better for each generation, so they can develop that appreciation and understanding of that bigger picture. I think of like a person who works in a coal mine and understands how valuable coal has been for our society, you know, especially Midwest America, you know, and they're like, hey man, this is great stuff. It's great that we can get this coal and, you know, provide all these resources for everybody. Yet they hate science and want like intelligent design taught in science classrooms and are like, your scientists are making life worse for everybody. And your artists are just a bunch of lazy pansies who don't do anything useful. You're missing the process of how we get to being able to make the world a better place and benefit everybody, which, you know, and that process is science, and it is art, and it is discussion. You know, there are people who keep the world running, and there are people who work on figuring out how to improve the running of the world. And there are people who help us understand why we keep the world running. You know, these are all very different things. They can overlap. You know, even though they often don't. You know, and it's difficult to understand the value of those more abstract ideas when you think these are the only things that have value. You know? So anyway, that's the thing about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's awesome. It, you know, helps with that kind of thing. It helps you visualize that.